All right, guys, welcome back. Now, obviously, a couple of players unexpectedly have left, but I feel we're going to be okay. We've got someone returning. Hopefully, you're going to be in a good centre-back battle this year because we know you've got potential. So make sure you're sharp. But look, make the most of our time in Fiji. It should be okay. It's just the group stages. And also this season, we're in Group D. So we're actually going to get a pre-season before we go. So we should be fine. Just do yourselves justice, let's top the group and then see when we get Western Suburbs, okay? Let's go, guys, let's clean sweep this group as per usual. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 127 of the New Zealand Builder Nation here on Shaun Does FM with both the All Whites and with Cashmere Technical. I hope you're doing well, and come up today we start off 2037, which should be a big year in game. Fingers crossed this time actually get to go to a FIFA Club World Cup. But just to make sure we to win this year's OFC Champions League, going to start off with the group stage of that competition and also run through the transfers which we have done. So if you're looking forward to that in today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But at the end of last week, we finished off with the New Zealand National League Grand Final against Western Suburbs. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. We've gone through the off-season since then. This year actually making our way into Group D of the OFC Champions League, which does mean we have gotten a little bit of a pre-season. But before that, did do some transfers going into this new season. Got rid of some players I wasn't expecting to. I was thinking about letting go of some of the All Whites who wanted. In the end, that didn't happen too much because that interest didn't amount to anything. But did let go of some other players in our squad, and also a couple they did leave because of the whole contract situation before our wage budget did get bumped up off the back of winning that National League Grand Final in the last week. So, a couple of changes to our squad going into this new season. We'll go over to transfer history and have a look at this. Now, I think what we're going to do this time around is actually run through this by importance rather than actually going through in chronological order, because as you can see, we've got quite a few ins and a few outs as well. Of course, we also need to worry about the ones that did start at the start of 2037. I think the biggest one that might surprise you guys is the departure of our first choice left winger in Giorgio C. Ardiello. He came to me at the start of this season saying he wanted to leave the club in the last year of his contract. There were some bids from some other A-League clubs, but in the end, this transfer has worked out really well because he stays in New Zealand. He has gone to the Wellington Phoenix for a fee of £54,000. So it does mean while he's left us at Cashmere Tech, which is a bit of a bummer considering just how good he is, he does stay in New Zealand. Hopefully that contract running through to 2039, that is 2.5 years, will be enough for him to make sure he will qualify in the future still for the All Whites. Giorgio Ciardiello no longer here at Cashmere Tech, but thankfully still in New Zealand, but in the A-League at the Wellington Phoenix. A bit surprising he's only up there as a squad player, but also that did mean got rid of quite a bit of wage off our budget. But to be fair, didn't need to replace him too much. Still had Chris Greenidge at the club. He moves up to first choice, and also Matthew de Hotman de Villiers. He gets bumped back up to a backup. So Ciardiello no longer here, but that's okay because of squad depth, and also because he went to a fellow New Zealand club, even though they do play in a different league. Also, probably surprising is another departure over to Australia, Mitchell Clout. This one came through pretty close to when we needed to register players for the Champions League. Thankfully, once this bid did come through, he left the exact same day, so we didn't have to worry about him being registered and then leaving us. But Mitchell Clout's gone over to the Gold Coast Knights. His transfer value when he was here at Cashmere Tech was around 2 to 9k. In the end, we got about 20k for him from the Gold Coast Knights, just under that, but I do think there's a decent chunk of add-ons in that fee, and also a good percentage of profit from the next sale as well. So he should get a good bit of money from that if he does get sold on. But Mitchell Clout, quite promising player for us here at Cashmere Tech as well as a New Zealand national pool. A bit disappointing to let him go because he is one of our under-20 players. That might be an issue this season, albeit we did fix that with some signings, as you'll see shortly. But Mitchell Clout did depart to go to the Gold Coast Knights, and to be fair, is over there as a regular starter in the second tier of Australia, just looking at how these guys are getting on, they're currently in third, so definitely a team who could sneak their way into the A-League next season, albeit, now that I've looked at it, they're in the relegation playoffs. That's definitely not what's going to happen. I did think that form was a bit poor for a team up in third, so maybe that moved not as good as I thought it was there for Mitchell Clout, but still, he is over there now at the Gold Coast Knights, and we did get a decent fee from him compared to what we should have. Also for him with the Newcastle Jets, that probably would have been a better move, because those guys, if we try and find where they are in the second division, are top of that relegation playoff, so they're definitely going to stay in that division for next season, the Gold Coast Knights, in a little bit of a more perilous position. But Mitchell Clout has also left us, and just going back to transfer history, a couple of tabs, and also leaving us going to this season, there's a couple of guys I haven't heard of. Keiji Tanabe, don't remember him, but a couple more players who were at the club and did feature. Two centre-backs, Usmana Kanade, bit disappointed with this one, but unfortunately couldn't renew his contract last season because of the wage situation, so he's gone over to Esbjerg FB, who are over in Denmark. It's a bit disappointing because he just qualified as a New Zealander, so we are letting go there of a local player. Interestingly, he's now switched back to Ivorian, but is an option for New Zealand, did count as a local player, so that would have been quite nice to keep him, but unfortunately not the case because of, at the time, some wage issues. And unfortunately, one of the real legends of this save so far from both AFC Auckland and here at Cashmere Tech has departed, and Georgios Victoros is gone to Omanoia 29M back in his homeland of Cyprus, but another player we kept around long enough to be an all-whites option, but really was a squad player. He goes back over there to be a regular starter, and also is another one who we could call up to the all-whites if we need to, but at 31 years old, that ship has probably sailed. So those are the players that we let go of. Obviously, letting go of two first-team centre-backs did mean we had to replace them, and really, that was the first bit of business that we did do in the transfer window once it ticked over into 2037. The first player is the only one that we signed off another team, albeit it was on a free transfer in Hosafa, and he is a young Brazilian, 19 years old now. It says here he's a midfielder, but 1.8 metres tall, and I thought he could be quite good as a ball-playing defender. Very good decision-making. That disappears if we use him as a central defender. In fact, it doesn't. So I'm not too sure what I was thinking when I decided to play him as a ball-playing defender, maybe because his first touch and passing is a bit better than most centre-backs as a central defender, but he looks fairly promising. 3.5-star current ability, 4.5-star potential. He's going to be our first choice centre-back going in to this new season, because we are going back to the ball-playing defender. Just want to try that out and see if it might improve us. Not that we've been too bad over the last couple of seasons, but Hosafa, he comes in, formerly of Juventus, over in Brazil. And the other centre-back that we signed is actually coming back to Cashmere Technical for a second stint here at the club, and that is Sergio Arce. He was here for a couple of years back in 2030 to 2034, then got signed by Indy 11 on a free because he was on a long contract. But we've got him back after they let him go. As you can see, pretty decent current ability and potential. As a central defender, he's actually better than Hosafa, so it's going to be quite interesting to see what role works best alongside Tim Anderson on the other side. That will probably determine who starts on that other side. We're going to start off with the more promising Hosafa, but Sergio Arce, definitely a good backup, still quite young at 23 years old, the American. Good jumping reach, a lot taller at 1.95 metres tall, so I guess based on that, he could be a better option with a bit more potential. We'll start off the season with Hosafa as our first choice. So those are centre-back replacements for both Victoros and for Kanate, both foreigners, but because of that sale of C. Adiola and Greenwich coming in for him, that does mean that did open up a foreign spot that we could use. And the other players that we have signed, all these guys will be around our under-20s, and we are still signing a couple of, because got quite a bit of young scouting done in this off-season. So the other players that we've signed, the first of them is James Sainsbury, young New Zealander. Actually, he came for our youth intake last season, had a bit more potential than what was shown at the start of that. That went up from 2 stars to 2.5 stars. But the other players that we have signed, and there's probably more to come, as I said, Marcos Vinicius, not Marcus Vinicius. So he's different to our balling midfielder that could get confusing, especially as they are both Brazilians, but he is a 19-year-old who can play all three positions in attacking midfield as well as up front, 1.5-star current ability and 4-star potential also coming in. We've got Jackson, great one-name player there out of Brazil as well. He's a bit younger and has that 4-star potential with 1-star current ability, can play central attacking midfield and also apparently do a job up front. And the last player coming in for the moment is Tim Garza, an American, 18 years old, and attribute-wise, he probably looks the pick of those youngsters with 1.5-star current ability, but still that 4-star potential. That's what we've done in terms of transfers, got rid of a few first-team players and just really replaced them in terms of first-teamers with those centre-backs, just to make sure that we do have a full squad going in to this new season. And what that does to our usual best 11 is this, as I said, going to play Josefa as a ball-playing defender alongside Tim Anderson, still learning because he is more used to playing in midfield, but that's the main change. And of course, as I said, Chris Greenidge, he comes in after the sale of CR Diallo, but apart from that, it's pretty much the same team that we had here at Cashmere Tech last season, and a few different options on the bench. Arce as one of the backup centre-backs alongside Isaac Hughes, and Hotman de Villiers these days is the backup left winger. So still pretty stable despite those sales that we did make. And in terms of the Champions League this season, we have ended up in Group D, which did mean we could actually do a pre-season for once, and a decent one as well. 4 games, the rotation, they took on the Turtles, picked up a 3-0 win, and a week later beat FC 2011 7-2. The first team played the other 2 games, and to be fair, that draw against AFC Auckland, while disappointing after being 3-0 up, pretty good result against the team who are from the A-League, so I don't mind that result, even though we did kind of bottle it. And then a 5-2 win over Ferrymead Bay. Of course, these days those guys are not in the Southern League. So 3 wins and a draw, but the draw did come against an A-League. Clubs are pretty happy with the pre-season, and we're in Group D of the Champions League. First up, we take on AS Venus, a team we've taken on before, I believe, in the knockouts of the Champions League. And the other 2 teams will probably play off camera. Lautoka, the home team from Fiji, and Tupapa Maralinga, who are from the Cook Islands. So it does look like a pretty suitable group, one we should get through pretty comfortably. But because we're in Group D, that does mean that the first 2 groups have already been completed. First up, we have Group A. This was won by Honiara City from the Solomon Islands, and same points for AS Magenta from New Caledonia, Nauru and Kiwi. They got knocked out with just the draw against each other, I presume that would have been. Indeed, it was there 4-4 in a goal-heavy game. In Group B is where Western Suburbs ended up. They absolutely thumped the teams in their Group 8-1 over Tawhia. That a very good result. They do look a shadow of the team that did beat Auckland City a couple of seasons ago, and that was backed up with a 6-0 win over Tefana. A late red card probably didn't influence the result that much, and on the final match day, a 5-0 win over the Blue Kumul. So Western Suburbs do look pretty ready to go here early in the season for this Champions League. Hopefully they don't win it, just to make sure that we do actually go to this year's Club World Cup, because we should be. But that first one a couple of years ago since we came here does still play on my mind quite a bit, when we should have gone, but Auckland City did. Tefana, they qualified from that group. The Blue Kumuls and Tawhia got knocked out. Tawhia, shocking display from them. They did not pick up a single point in Group C. That is made up of Waniagu, Simbu, JS Bucko from New Caledonia, and Tabuji Amiri from Vanuatu. That one will take place the same time as we make our way through Group D. But these games are getting played overseas. It is at the home of Lautoka, the team who did pick up a win in the first game of this group, 3-0 over Tupapa Maralinga. And it's being played at Churchill Park, and I'm pretty sure we haven't been there yet. It's a stadium I know mostly from rugby games. Being in New Zealand, I think most of the Fiji and Drua games get played up there at Churchill Park. So before we get stuck into this first and probably only game of today's episode against AS Venus, let's sneak in a bus trip over in Fiji. And seeing as this is an overseas bus trip, so lots of travel involved, we're not going back on the same day. We do need somewhere to stay, especially with a couple of games in a couple of days. And we are going to stay here at a pretty nice place by the looks of it, the Tanoa Waterfront Hotel, relatively well priced for the location. We'll go over to their website. Apparently it's a 4.5-star hotel. It does look quite nice here. Going through the photo gallery, it looks pretty good. There's a very nice pool. that we'll make the most of. I'm sure the boys will like that. There is also a restaurant inside. The rooms look pretty nice. It looks quite decent. It's on the waterfront. This looks very nice indeed. 40 minutes from the airport, but as you'll see shortly, quite close to Churchill Park. That's the main reason we're there. That does look like a very nice swimming pool for us to take over here with Cashmere Technical. Going back to the other page, you can have a look at some more photos. It's a quite nice looking hotel, this one. Not sure about the meal that's pictured there. That does look a little bit average, but the rest of it does look quite nice. Beautiful swimming pool. That looks a bit better in terms of a food option than whatever that was supposed to be. Don't know if I want to eat the food from that restaurant now. Hopefully we'll find some decent food nearby on this bus trip, but we're going to stay there. And as you'll see shortly, the main reason is that it's only a 2-minute drive and 1 kilometre away to Churchill Park. You could almost walk there. Apparently it only takes 13 minutes. That could be a bit of a warm-up, but hopefully this will work. Otherwise, this will be a very short aerial bus trip. And thankfully it is going to work here on Google Maps. So here we are outside our hotel. The roads might need a little bit of work over there, but there it is. That's where we're staying. Looks like there's a little bit of a backyard as well. Can almost use that as some pre-match training, seeing as there'll be other games going on there at Churchill Park while the Champions League does take place. We're going to go here back up the road alongside the beach there. This is a very nice location. Also a playground. Hopefully that might be our youth scouting for Fijian players. Now I've said that, I really should delete that from this video. That sounds very wrong, but who knows how youth player scouting works in FM. It all does seem very dodgy. But here we take a left-hand turn, go past the Toyota, where we might be hiring this minivan from for this bus trip. Let's just go here down the road a little bit before we take yet another left-hand turn. Is there anything interesting popping up here? There's a building on the left-hand side. I don't know what's in that first part of it. That is a curry house, so a bit of food nearby. To be fair, food options so far don't look too great. Hopefully they'll improve as we make our way down the main road, because I'm pretty sure I can see some golden arches. That might be the food option over here in Fiji, if the food's like what we saw before. That pretty average sandwich at the hotel. We go past the bank, where we can just get some money out for making our way to McDonald's. That might be the best food option nearby, which isn't saying a lot, but at least there's something that we know for our Cashmere Tech lads, especially those Americans in our squad these days. We'll just go past the Macca's and see what else there is before we get our way a bit closer here to Churchill Park. Now, this does look like a little bit of an interesting intersection, because we want to go up here, turn right a bit, and I think then we make our way around this sort of roundabout. And rather awesomely, Google Maps has told me to go down a road which is closed currently. So what we have to do here is go back to the other side of the road and go this way, because I think this is the only way that this is going to work. Hopefully it can still actually make the turn into Churchill Park, so that's quite nice. Good old Google Maps not knowing when the roads are closed. Let's just go here, complete right way for a New Zealander, but against the flow of traffic here over in Fiji. So let's just go here down this road a little bit. It does mean we can't see too much on the side of the road. I actually thought we'd be going down, but at the moment not too much happening. On the left hand side there's a sports store. To be fair, that could be useful if anyone loses a ball at the ground. Let me just check here how far away we are, and in fact we're not far away at all. Over on the right hand side soon there will be Churchill Park as we go past the Jacks of Fiji with a little India. That looks like it might be a mall, but if we start to make our way here down the road a touch further, and on the right past the cinema should be an entrance to Churchill Park, which we hopefully can see well enough from this angle here with the little walkway where our guys can hop off the bus. And there is Churchill Park, where this year's group stages of the Champions League is getting played. From this angle it doesn't look too great. Maybe it look better if we go down the road a bit more. He says very hopefully, because at the moment it's not looking too great over there in Fiji. As we just go past there, a public toilet, which I suppose is good. But there's Churchill Park. Honestly, I thought it was a bit better because I'm pretty sure that the Fijian Drua play games there and some other teams play games there in terms of rugby, because I was quite familiar with that name. But at the moment, not looking too good. Hopefully can find a better photo of this ground we're playing at. And thankfully we've actually found the #1 field here at Churchill Park, because if we have a look here at the map, which I might have to bring up on a separate tab, we were going past what can only be described as the children's grounds or the club grounds, I'm guessing, because all that area there is a bit rubbish. What we are looking at is the home of Lautoka FC, which we couldn't see from the road that Google Maps made us go down. I probably should have just kept going down the road that wasn't closed, and we were going to be a look at the actual proper entrance to Churchill Park. But going back to the photo that I have found, this is #1 ground, which surely we are using for the Bloomin' Champions League. This looks a lot better compared to what I've seen on the TV when the Drua and the Fijian national team do play their rugby games. There it is there, smack bang in the middle of a rugby game a couple of years ago. It's a pretty nice venue for the OFC Champions League compared to the other ones that we do see on some of the other islands. Decent stands there as well, and over the other side there's a good old embankment. Fun times indeed. So there we are, Churchill Park. Eventually found the right place instead of what we saw from the road, and hopefully we can start things off here with a win over AS Venus. And here are the team sheets for this first game of the Champions League. And as you can see on screen, we're going with pretty much a full rotation for this game. Unfortunately, because of the way that we did our pre-season, all our first teamers, despite a week gap since we played Pyramid Bays, are on a heavy workload. So Debenham at right back and Cifuentes in goal are the only first teamers that are starting this one. So a bit of a test here for our rotation players. But AS Venus should be a team that we can beat. Hopefully can do that, despite the fact all our first teamers need a bit of a rest. And in fact, there's a highlight here, nice and early, less than a minute. And we're in our traditional yellow with the blue shorts, and Venus there are in the blue with the white shorts. When we get the ball back there, Hughes plays that one forward to one of the Americans in Corona. Now out to Debenham, nice ball over the top there for Salcedo. Pulls that one back for Corona. It's a bit choppy, but he puts that one away in the bottom left corner. That one might have taken a bit of a deflection. I think it did there off of Julien for Venus, and that is a hot start. Only 1 minute in, and we go 1-0 in front of this. Could be a long day at the office. Hopefully this will show well, we should be topping our group and hopefully avoiding Western Suburbs until the semis or the final, but that is a good start. Corona makes it 1-0. In fact, right off the back of that, there is a highlight from the restart. Lots of early action in this game. Might be a chance for us here to put a buffer on the opposition nice and early, and Corona off the back of that goal with an interception, albeit wasn't under too much pressure for that. Just a horrible pass, but then we try and go again here down the right-hand side. Salcedo to turn, and now Debenham inside the box. Squeeze that one nicely for Caputo. That one comes off the woodwork, I think, there. And now a chance for Venus to do something on the counter-attack. But foul there from Corona, a slide tackle. They just can't get rid of him. And it's still 1-0 Cashmere. And right off the back of an own goal, which got ruled out for offside rather randomly, but I think I might have to cut that one out because this game already looking like there might be a few highlights in it. But from the free kick, we get on the attack. Castro there was on the attack, but a tackle on him does break it up, albeit not for too long. Now Hotman de Villiers makes his way just inside the box, and that one goes through the hands there of their goalkeeper. I think that's Teu for Venus, and me, Hotman de Villiers, who should get more game time here this season off back of the sale of Ciardiello. Thankfully, still in New Zealand, though, that worked out beautifully, going up to the Phoenix. But Hotman de Villiers got that ball after Castro did lose it. Be fair, Castro helped us get it back, but that is a good finish there. I think that was with his left foot into the top right corner to make it 2-0. And right off the back of that, we've got a throw-in, albeit inside our own half. Honey plays that back to Arce. Let's see if he ends up being the first choice centre-back instead of Hasafu, or if it is going to be the Brazilian who does keep his spot. Going to be a good battle between those two for who partners Anderson once we get into the serious stuff. Now Hotman de Villiers will flip this one far post for Salcedo. Heads it into the ground and into the bottom right corner. Our right wingers do score lots of goals here at Cashmere Tech with their head. Usually it's Wale Kali, but this time it's Salcedo. And Hotman de Villiers having a good start here. He's now got a goal, as you just saw before, and that assist, but a quick fire double, and already we're 3-0 in front. And just going past the 15-minute mark here, and we are still on the attack early in this game. There's a corner in our favour, and someone there gets pushed in the back. Looks like it was Isaac Hughes, and a chance for us now from the spot to make this 4-0 and put this game to bed nice and early. I think it's going to be Castro here from the spot. Indeed, that is the case. Takes his time, sends the keeper the wrong way. It's a really good penalty from Juan Carlos Castro. Back in the team here at Cashmere Tech off the back of that sale of Mitchell. About the one big thing of us playing Hasafa as a centre back is that he is under 20. So an extra under 20 option here at Cashmere Tech could be quite useful, but Castro puts that one away to make it 4-0. A highlight right off the back of that. Let's see if this amounts to anything to be fair. I'm already forgetting the Brazilian centre back's name. I think I've now called him Hasafa and Hasafu, but it'll be one of the two. Just need to remember which one. But now, nice pass there from Debenham. Forward to Castro. Absolute sitter. He misses it. Still 4-0 though. And we're just about to make our way into half time here in this game. Things have slowed down in terms of goal scoring chances off the back of that fourth goal we scored. We have had chances, but most of them have been pretty average, not hitting the target. And this does feel like a game where there could still be quite a few goals. And there's one just before half time. Salcedo gets himself on a hat trick, and he's dropped down to a red heart. So that could be an interesting decision going into the second half. But Salcedo from that front on the right-hand side there through Harrison Debenham, our young player of the last couple of seasons here at Cashmere Tech. We just work the ball here inside. Turner does find Salcedo, and that's a lovely curving effort with his left foot, and that should make it 5-0 going into half-time on a hat-trick, but has just gone back up to a yellow heart. So I think we'll leave him on for the early stages of the second half just to see if he can complete that. But very happy with that first half. Did quieten down through that period off the back of that fourth goal to that fifth one. You did just see we had our chances, just weren't taking them very well. Debenham is a first teamer, so we'll take him off here for Wilson. He picked up an injury in the preseason. That's why we didn't start him in this game. Let's give him 45 minutes to get his fitness up, because hopefully we can put out a full strength 11 for the next game. And this group of things going very well. 5-0 up at half time against AS Venus. And in fact, there's a highlight here straight from the restart, so we might as well watch this and see if anything does happen nice and early in the second half. We've got the ball. Us plays that one back forward to Honey. Be fair as well as a centre back. I'm not too sure how to say his name as well, the Brazilian and the American. I think it's Sergio Arce. Let's just run with that. But Wilson puts that one into the mix, so it gets cleared there by Venus. And now we make our way inside the box. A pass forward there, and Hotman de Villiers goes down like an absolute sack of spuds. And a chance here surely for Salcedo to complete a hat trick. Let's see if he can put it away. It's Castro, so that was worthwhile leaving him on, especially because Castro just hits that one straight at the goalkeeper. Kind of stuffed that one up, guys. The whole idea of that was to get Salcedo a hat trick, but Castro took it and didn't score off the back of that, though. We do have a corner, and Turner has the ball just inside the box. It goes back to Honey. Surely we'll find Castro here in a ton of space. Cuts inside. A curving effort. Of course he scores that one. It was so much more difficult than the penalty, but now he gets himself on a hat-trick, and Salcedo's dropped down to red heart. So I think Castro's kind of robbed the Salcedo of a chance to pick up a hat-trick by stuffing up that penalty, but a wonderful strike makes up for it there from Juan Carlos Castro. That will make it 6-0, and off the back of that, we'll take off Salcedo for Khaled before this next highlight might start. So Khaled, he can come on here at right wing, is on a heavy workload, but don't want any injuries this early, even though Tariq Nah is still in the squad. We might have to use him in our next game, and in fact, we do see the highlight from the kickoff. Let's see if this amounts to anything, but this game well in control for us here. 6-0, 10 minutes into the second half, and they do have the ball here. Venus down the right-hand side for them, and at the moment are keeping it quite well. Hotman de Villiers nearly gets that one back for us, but Charbon will play that one there for, I think that was Godfrey. Good effort there. Thankfully comes off the woodwork. We can clear our lines and make that sub. Still 6-0 in front. And absolutely nothing's happened off the back of that previous sub that we made. We're down the last 10 minutes of this game, and Tristan Turner's dropped down to red heart. We've still got a couple of subs left that we can make. Bring on Vinicius for him, not a regular first teamer. It looks like Corona might be a bit better suited as a deep line playmaker. And off the back of that, there still might be a highlight here from a corner. There is. Wilson, he will take this one, looking there for Arce inside the box, but unfortunately a bit too much on that one. Just goes over the bar. He could be quite dangerous with that height and jumping reach from set piece, much like one of the players that he's replacing here in Georgios Victoros. So maybe that's a reason we should start him over the Brazilian and Hasafa, who does need the rest today. But we do have the ball here off the back of a subsequent highlight, and Castro with a chance here to complete a hat-trick. Really good chance there, one-on-one with the goalkeeper, but he comes up with a good save. To be fair, Castro's now had quite a few chances to complete that hat-trick, a penalty which was saved in now that, and unfortunately the corner gets up to nothing. Castro, for some reason, instead of going after a hat-trick, just lets that one go out there for a throw. Now we make our way into 2 minutes of added time. To be fair, XG-wise, we've matched it, but it did feel like a game that we could have scored more goals in there, but in the end, it's a very comfy one. I think the player of the match might even be Zayu there from AS Venus, albeit no player of the match icon, but must have gone to one of our fellas. But that is a very comprehensive win in the first game of the group stage here of the Champions League, 6-0 over AS Venus, who, based on history, probably going to be the other team to qualify from our group. So I think I'm going to go forward to play the next 2 games. We'll come back and see if we did finish top of the group and who we've got in the quarters and the semis. And we are back with the results from our last 2 games of the group stage of the Champions League, backing up that 6-0 win there over AS Venus with a 5-1 win over to Papa Maralinga. Now, to be fair, we were really poor here in the first half. Our first choice 11 didn't really kick into gear until the second half of this game. And to be fair, the goal that they scored to Papa Maralinga was a screamer. A free kick here late in the first half, and he just drills this one to the top left corner. Nothing Cifuentes can do to save that one. Thankfully, Janssen grabbed an equaliser just before half-time, and then second half, 2 penalties to Zoomers, plus Safa with a goal on debut in terms of a competitive game, and Marcus Vinicius also came on and picked up a goal, and we ran away with a 5-1 win. But that one definitely could have been a bit more comfortable. Somehow they scored the first goal, but thankfully we came back and picked up a 5-1 win, and then backed it up with a 3-0 win over the home team in our last game of the group stage. By this stage, we'd already qualified, but Lautoka didn't need to worry about goal differential to see if they'd go through, but thankfully we did our job and picked up a 3-0 win. Zoomers missed a penalty in the first half off the back of a Greenwich goal. That was just a straight-out miss, not saved, just blazed over the crossbar. It was a pretty shocking one, but thankfully we kicked away in the second half thanks to goals through Castro. Came off the bench for Zoomers because he was on a 6.1. Not very good. And also Salcedo popped up again with a goal. That was a game where we definitely could have scored more again. Our first team been a bit rusty so far in those 2 games we play off camera, but thankfully we still picked up 3 wins. We go through with a perfect record, albeit goal differential wise, not actually as impressive as Western Suburbs, but Lautoka, they also went through largely thanks to that first game win over to Papa Maralinga. They then lost to Venus, but the goal differential I think does mean they've gone through as the second best team from the group, because to be fair, I'm not too sure how they've sorted out the rest of it, but they've got the best goal differential of all those teams on 3 points, so I think that's the reason that Lautoka qualified, and after that it may just be alphabetical order why AS Venus are above to Papa Maralinga, but all the teams there on 3 points apart from us, but Lautoka, they do qualify for the quarters, and Group C, that was won by Waniagu, albeit the same amount of points as Tapuji Amiri, and Simbu and JS Bucko, they get knocked out. So those are the teams from the back half of the draw making their way through to the quarters. And unfortunately, because we were in Group D, the draw happened while we were playing our last game. So it does mean we can't actually do the draw live, which is a bit weird. But of course, this is the first time we actually ended up in Group D. So apologies, but we already know who we've got in the quarterfinals. It is AS Magenta from Group A. We've taken those guys on before the shade. Hopefully, we can beat them over 2 legs there in April and should make our way through to the semi-finals, where quite gladly for me, we will play one of Western Suburbs, probably Western Suburbs or Tapuji Amiri, those guys from Vanuatu. You dare say it's going to be another semi between us and Western Suburbs over 2 legs in a couple of days' time. So quite happy with that. Does mean that we get Western Suburbs over 2 legs. Hopefully that makes things a bit easier than playing them in a one-off final, and we win the Champions League this year, and there should be no reasons for us not to go to this year's Club World Cup. If we don't go, I'll be out of here quicker than you can say Cashmere Technical, but that will do it for today's episode. Made our way through the group stages, also ran through some transfers and got the draw for both the quarters and semis of this OFC Champions League. If you enjoyed it, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. Now tomorrow we'll come back, we'll probably just show you guys, hopefully, the first leg of that Champions League quarterfinal, because we should be doing quite well on that at home. Hopefully can just show you guys the results from the second leg and then set up that big semi against Western Suburbs. But also, we've got an international window coming up before then. One of the games is a World Cup qualifier, not very interesting. But the other game, this was requested by this nation while some interesting stuff was going on in real life, and it was just too good an opportunity to pass up. We've got Canada, the drone spying cheats that we are playing late in March before we take on the Solomon Islands in our World Cup qualifier. I think we can put our first team against Canada and beat them, and then we can just play a rotation against the Solomon Islands and also beat them, Canada, in the save. Not too good, 74th in the world, but that might be a bit more interesting than showing you guys both legs of the Champions League quarterfinals. We're going to take on Canada, see if they're going to be droning on us before that game in tomorrow's episode. We should be able to beat them and then go forward and make our way through the quarters of the OFC Champions League. So until tomorrow, for some Canada action, the drone spying cheats, and also AS Magenta in the Champions League quarters. Thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.